Knights Templars are dying. They know they have to protect these relics from the rest of the world. They're never going to trade them in for money. They're never going to come back and have to cash it in. They want to just hide it so that the people will have it for generations to come, regardless if they get to see it or not. They have the manpower. As you said, these guys are fucking badasses, right? They have the manpower. They have the honor and the fortitude to dig 200 feet down and to hide this stuff. They have the knowledge and the smarts and the engineering prowess to be able to create these systems to hide this treasure from the rest of the world. Not that it needs to be hidden, but because they know that they need to protect it for future generations. And to me, this is the best way to do it. You bury it on a fucking tiny island, you booby trap the fuck out of it, and by today's standards, it's still hard to get to. So, do you not believe any of this? I mean, are you of the belief system? And this is going to make me sad if you are, because you're dead inside. You don't believe that there's anything hinky on Oak Island, or there's not, these aren't booby traps, that all of this stuff is naturally occurring, and there's really nothing hidden there. All of this stuff is just explained by generations of digging and people leaving stuff behind and other people finding it and all that stuff.
I mean, I told you what I think. It all comes back to that universal human tendency to seek patterns and random facts. If you go out in your backyard and you dig deep enough, you dig enough holes, you're going to find random shit. And if you try hard enough, you could probably come up with a theory that you could get some people to believe that makes you think that there's treasure buried under your house. And now we present for your listening pleasure a 4-minute long Chase Ferris dramatic retelling of an episode of The Curse of Oak Island.
Okay, so I don't believe you, I'm not in your corner with that at all. Maybe it's my boyish charm and wonder that wants to continue believing. So, and again, most of my knowledge of Oak Island was sparked from this History Channel show, and I'm a huge proponent of the Leginas. I'm a huge fan, and one of the last episodes of last season was them sort of exploring this so-called manufactured beach on Oak Island. It sits off one of the sides of Oak Island, as a beach normally does. But in this beach, they're taking this metal detector and they're trying to find stuff amongst the rocks in the beach, as old guys with metal detectors tend to do, and they get this big hit, and everybody's super excited because they've probably spent fucking 12 hours sifting through these rocks, finding nothing, right? Or like a button or something. But they get this big hit, and they both run over there, and they're super excited. And the guy that's running the metal detectors, reaching into the rocks, and he pulls this thing out, and he starts brushing it off, and you can tell right away. And I'm getting excited watching this because I'm like, oh fuck, what is it? Oh god, this guy's excited. Should I be excited? So I'm sitting there on the edge of my seat, and he's brushing it off, and you can tell in his face he's getting excited. And then they show the camera, and it's this cross. It's this little cross figure, and long story short, they're super excited about it. They get it off for testing. And it basically is, they take it to a historian or something, and I think they're still waiting on the actual chemical testing and shit like that. But it basically says that this is the type of picture. Let me make sure that I'm going to explain this right, because I want to blow your mind. The shape of the cross is very indicative of the knights. So when you talked about them all going to France, they were a lot of them were in this one little castle, and they got sort of just quarantined off from the rest of the world, and then eventually murdered. But in this castle you can go to in France, you can tour it, and one of the Legina brothers and one of the tiny Legina brothers, or the tiny one of the kids, he I'll pronounce it correct. The Legina. Wait, now I can't even say it right. So they go to France, and they go to this castle, and they basically say that, hey, all of this stuff on the walls, and there's just massive amounts of carvings and writings and drawings on the walls. And this is the part of the story that's fucking sick, because they said basically the historian that was with them said, well, the Knights Templars that resided here, this was when they got rounded up like cattle, basically. And he didn't say that; he was much more proper. But and they all got sent to this castle, and they would use their teeth and their fingernails to carve drawings and writings into the walls, because they knew that this was their last hope, that this was their last chance. That they were going to be able to deliver messages and live on in history and be able to give their gospel. And they were drawing all these pictures. And I know I'm rambling on. Sorry. So so this cross that they found on the beach in Nova Scotia was also basically an exact match to pictures that were drawn on the castle walls by the Knights Templar. And they also go on further to say, yes, this is exactly what, this is the type of cross that they would carry on their necklaces or draw and stuff like that. And it's also the same way that they would smuggle gold. They would cover it in lead, which, come to find out, this cross was covered in lead. And then gold would be basically in the core or on the inside. So that's what they're testing for now. But they also carbon dated it, I think, or whatever you do to that type of. I don't think you can carbon date lead because it's not organic, right? Is that right?
I would think that's correct.
But they did whatever the fuck they do to test lead to see how old it is, and it was around the same time frame that the Knights Templar existed.
We will now resume our regularly scheduled nonsensical dialogue. I mean, if we're talking about all kinds of conjecture, which is what we're doing
it's
here.
Not conjecture. How is that conjecture?
One of these knights could have easily thrown this cross into a bottle, sailed across the ocean. I mean,
how the fuck do you throw a cross in a bottle? Do you know what a cross looks like?
Have you ever not seen a fucking wide mouth bottle that you could fit something in?
Like Mountain Dew cans?
Sure, why not?
No, but I mean, look, they found this. There's no reasonable explanation. How far is Nova Scotia from France, let's say? How far is that? So
it's across the ocean.
Yeah, no shit. So you think that a fucking cross that you put in a goddamn Mountain Dew bottle in France?
No, I think a cross is a cross, and there's many other ways it could have gotten across the ocean. It doesn't. This is all conjecture anyway.
See,
you didn't blow my mind.
You have lost hope. So
could have easily transferred on a ship?
How do you?
Someone dropped it on a ship and it came over there. Whatever.
Okay. So how do you explain the coconut fibers? Let's start there, because the coconut fibers are built into Smith's Cove again. If we're talking booby traps, which we are because they exist, they've been found, they've been proven. How do you debunk the coconut fibers there? The fact that they weren't brought there to assist in building these structures.
I mean, I don't think we need to go through everything and try to for me to.
Why? Because you don't have an answer. Is that why we don't need to go through that one?
Coconut fibers could have easily been used as packing material in shipping crates. Boom. That's how they got there. Done.
But who's shipping shit there? There's nobody there, according to you.
Fuck. What do you think the pirates put their treasure in?
So you think there's pirates' treasure
came across
there?
the ocean. There were pirates on the ocean in the 1700s. Yes, I firmly believe there were pirates. Yes.
We're not talking about this.
100%.
The coconut fiber was proven to be 300 years old, which I guess would be 1700. So go fuck yourself. I'm saddened by this, Adam. I'm pulling back the pasta onion a little bit, and I'm finding out that you've lost your Goonies hope, and that makes me sad.
I'm sorry. I mean, so if we go back to your cross, I mean, how does the cross just swim up to the top by itself without being surrounded by all this other treasure? It seems more practical that what I described is how it got there, because it was by itself. If it was part of treasure, it would be in a chest or with loads of other shit.
Sorry, you're right. I don't believe this is part of the Knights Templar treasure. They, according to this historian that follows them,
this is just your evidence that the Templars
were there, yes,
on Oak Island.
And there's a ton of evidence that people were there on Oak Island before people were supposed to be on Oak Island or documented to be on Oak Island. But this cross that they found was one of those type of things that the Knights Templars would wear around their neck. So assuming that it would essentially fall off their neck and get on this get basically put under this rock until recently.
So what do you want to just recap for everybody before we kind of give our final thoughts on what treasure have we actually found on Oak Island?
So it depends on your definition of treasure. There has been documented, and there's museums on Oak Island and tours on Oak Island. You can go see all this stuff, but there has been little snippets or little trinkets of things found on Oak Island that would lend towards activity on Oak Island. But there's brooches, that have been timed to be back, or whatever the fuck that the phrase is, that have been dated. But
I think it was one single brooch.
One single but look, it doesn't matter. There have been things found that don't make sense to be there.
It does matter.
And
but
to me, if you have the money and the means, go for it and keep that wonder going and try to find it. And luckily, there's a couple of Leginas sitting on Oak Island right now, keeping that dream alive for us. So
yeah, I mean, if you have the money and you don't know what to do with it, more power to you. But you're right. One brooch. I think there's been some coins.
There's been, as you said, there's
copper coins,
parchment,
silver coins,
parchment found
whatever,
with writing on it.
A small scrap of parchment, yes, with 2 letters.
Look,
on
all
it.
I know is if I found any of this shit in my backyard, I'm digging up my entire land. I mean, it's just
exactly.
It's just
again, you're proving my point for me. But
I just don't believe you don't believe. That's all.
So again, to recap. The treasure found on Oak Island is not very much.
Yet.
You have a brooch. You have some coins. Yeah. A couple shavings of gold we didn't really talk about on a drill bit or something at one point, but not a ton. So all that being said, do you believe there's treasure on Oak Island? Why? I mean, how do you wrap it up from your perspective?
I believe there is treasure, quote unquote, on Oak Island. I don't necessarily know if it is true gold, silver, rubies, jewels type treasure, or if it is biblical treasures, relics, or if it's lost manuscripts and writings that the world has not seen yet. I want to believe, and call me an idiot all you want for wanting to believe, and maybe that sways me to want to believe that these things are tied together. But yes, I believe there is treasure on Oak Island. And for those that have the means and the will to do so, please keep on keeping on so that I can see the ending to this. Because if nobody's digging, then I'm never going up there to dig. So I want to make sure that somebody is. What about you?
I mean, if you want, we can come and dig in my backyard. I bet you we'll find a couple.
I'd love to.
Something interesting.
I'd love to.
But I mean, I think you kind of said exactly what I think is that people generally want to believe in this type of thing, that in treasure hunting, that humans have a propensity to want to explore and discover. And the human mind has a tendency to seek patterns in, random info. So I think that all of that rolls up to a really nice story that makes for a good TV show and makes for good forums on Reddit and all that kind of stuff. So I think that, if I had millions of dollars, this is not what I would invest it in, but more power to anyone who wants to.
Isn't that part of the Bare Naked Ladies song? If I had $1 million, I would buy Oak Island.
Thanks a lot for listening. Stranger Than Fiction is the brainchild of Chase Ferris, Allison Davila, and me, Adam Davila. We would love to hear from you on Twitter @STF Talk, and check out our Instagram, Stranger Than Fiction Podcast, for a preview of what's to come.